प्रिंसिपल का टिके जॉइनिंग प्रॉब्लम हो जेबे टिके आ सब ले जेबे
ठीक है ठीक है
सर अपन पिपिट शेयर करिवे हेलो
आज्ञा सर
सर पिपिट शेयर करिवे जी
से पड़े हब्बो बाहर सुनो ये भी मोर कौन है गेला ये नहीं पड़े पंचर बस मोर सब कुछ
हेलो हेलो
से कौन बोलू था और तो एट मोबाइल से मोबाइल
Sir, namaste.
Sorry, sir, for the late. Sir, am I meeting start kariba? Good morning, everyone. Honorable Principal, Professor Adhikari Lakshminarayan Das sir, esteemed resource person, Dr. Manoj Kumar Das sir, respected faculty members of Pattamundai College, and my dear loving students. I welcome all of you to this webinar discussion on Budget 2021, organized by Department of Economics in coordination with Department of Commerce, Pattamundai College, Pattamundai. The Union Budget 2022 was presented by the Honorable Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman on 1st February 2021. In the Parliament, this year's budget lays focus on the several pillars of reviving the economy. These are health and well-being, physical and financial capital and infrastructure, inclusive development for aspirational India, reinvigorating human capital, innovation and research and development, and minimum government, maximum governance. Several regulations around the securities market are proposed to be merged as a single code. Several direct taxes and indirect taxes amendments were also proposed. The overall capital expenditure for financial year 21-22 is Rs 5.54 lakh crore. Since the healthcare sector improvement is the need for the hours, Finance Minister proposed a new centrally sponsored scheme, that is PM Atmanirbhar Swasthya Bharat Yojana, with an outlay of about 64,180 crore over 6 years. Further, the budget outlay for health and well-being is estimated to be Rs 2,23,846 crore for the financial year 21-22, which is a rise by 137% year-to-year basis. The increased allocation is expected to expand and strengthen existing national health institutions, National Center for Disease Control, health emerging operation centers, and mobile hospitals. Another major highlights was the increase in the FDI limits in the insurance sector from 49% to 74%. The government plans to disinvest in 2 public sector undertakings as well as 1 insurance company. Thank you, sir, for listening me. Now, I would like to request my dear colleague Subhasis Mishra to introduce the resource person. Thank you.
Sir, namaskar.
Namaskar, namaskar.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable Principal, Professor Adhikari Lakshmi Narayan Das sir, esteemed resource person, Dr. Manoj Kumar Das sir, respected faculty members of Pattamundai College, participants from different parts of Odisha, and my dear loving students. It's my honor and privilege to introduce resource person of today's webinar, Dr. Manoj Kumar Das sir. Manoj sir is currently serving as Senior Assistant Professor of Economics in Ravenshaw University, Cuttack. Prior to joining in academic, Dr. Das was serving in Punjab National Bank as an economist. He did his master in economics from Utkal University in the year 2005 and completed his MPhil and PhD in economics from the same university. He has also qualified UGC NET for 3 times. He has more than 11 years of teaching and research experience. 7 research scholars have been awarded MPhil degree under his active guidance. He has published more than 20 research papers in different national and international journals. He has published 3 number of books and he has presented more than 40 research papers in various national and international seminar and conference organized by different institutions across India. He is the life member of Odisha Economic Association and Indian Economic Association. His teaching specialization include macroeconomics, financial institution and market, mathematical economics, and game theory. His research interest is banking and finance, macroeconomic policies, environmental economics, and assessment of climate change impact. Thank you, sir. It's our honor to have you as our resource person. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Subhasis.
On the code button. Now, I would like to request our Honorable Principal, Professor Adhikari Lakshmi Narayan Das sir, to address the webinar. Thank you, sir. Sir.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you are audible. Yes, sir, you are audible.
So very good morning to those who are
Sir, I think you have some internet problem, sir. Sorry, sir. Sir, your voice is not audible, sir.
Light. Is it audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Is it audible?
Yes, sir.
Is it audible now?
Yes, sir. It is audible.
So, yes. So I welcome all the participants, resource persons, colleagues, students, or college webinar where we are going to discuss about the 2012 and the most lovable listener will discuss the post-budget analysis today. And in conclusion, we will find that this budget will be vital art to the economy the farmers, to the citizens of India, the service and the categories of persons who are the citizen of our country. Really, budget is the only way to know economical growth rate, where it is and what is the trend and what should be the trend and whether we are going in the right direction or not. That you know, in the last year, this pandemic has created a lot of disaster to our country, by which the GDP is all, but the finance minister tries her level best to focus all the sectors to enhance the productivity of all the sectors, by which we can again will go in right track. She has rightly focused in all the sectors of productivity, like industry, banking reforms, and education, health, and ultimately on agriculture. It is the flagship program of the Prime Minister, that Atmanirbhar Bharat, where the India is on a flourishing way. That will be rightly and vividly discussed by our resource persons today. So I hope all the students and participants, those who are with us, will listen it carefully. And if they have any doubt, they can ask to our resource person. So he will explain in detail. And if you have any suggestions, if you have any recommendations that can be put forth, which will be given to the government of India for discussion and suggestion. To all those who are jobs, and one, I welcome our resource persons to this nice webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, I request our resource person to deliver his talk. Sir.
Thank you, Pradyumna. Esteemed principal of the college, Pradyumna and Subhasis, my dear students, they are doing very good work in the college. Other faculty members present over here, and dear students. Actually, this is a happy moment for me to be amongst you all to share some of my views on the budget 2021, Union Budget 2021. So really, I am feeling very happy, and I am also privileged to be amongst you. As my audience here is mostly UG students, as Pradyumna and Subhasis informed me. So basically, I will limit the discussion of this budget discussion to some concepts that what are the major aspects that is focused by the finance minister, without being critical about the budget, without going to analyze its implication in detail. I will simply explain that what is the provision that is there in the budget 2021, because my audience is undergraduate students. They need more academic input than any other type of analysis. So that is why I will keep my analysis this way. So as all of you know, that the Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented her third budget on Monday. Everyone had great expectation actually from it. Why? Because as you know, India is after all now the 5th largest economy, and this budget was supposed to be the formal policy response to COVID-19 pandemic, the ones in a century pandemic that the world is facing. So going into the budget, India had several crying demands, several important demands before going to the budget. What was these demands? As you know, there was high and rising unemployment. That is one biggest challenge before this government. Then the second problem was that low and falling labor force participation rates. People are not participating in the labor force. That means the willingness to work in our economy is decreasing. Similarly, there was another problem, embarrassingly high and rising level of child malnutrition. So if you will go through the report published by National Health Sample Survey, you can find out that the malnutrition among the children is the biggest concern now for us. At the same time, there is huge poverty, skyrocketing inequalities. Inequalities in our economy is increasing. And at the same time, there is widening gender gap, abysmal standards of education and skill training, and we can say a hollowed out system of public healthcare system. So this pandemic, COVID-19, actually opened our eyes that what is the state of our healthcare system, what is the quality of healthcare infrastructure that is available throughout our country. So these are major challenges. So given the challenges, Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented the budget. So there was high expectation that this budget will solve or will try to focus on solving these problems, starting from unemployment problem to the build of what you can say public healthcare facilities. So given such challenge, it is actually natural that many Indians thought that budget would ramp up allocations across the board, that the finance minister will simply double and triple allocations and try to solve all these problems. So this was the expectations of Indians. Now, given these expectations of our citizens, what are the provisions actually made by the finance minister? I will show you all those things with the help of one slide. Before that, let me say something about the approach of the finance minister towards the economy while presenting her budget. As you know, this year, the budget proposal rested on 6 broad pillars. As the finance minister declared that this budget is built upon 6 important pillars. What are they? The first pillar she talked about is health and well-being. So that is the first one. And the second one she talked about is physical and financial capital and infrastructure. Third one, she talked about inclusive development for aspirational India. And the fourth one, reinvigorating capital. What type of capital? Human capital. So focus was on human capital. The fifth one was innovation and research and development. And the sixth pillar she talked about is minimum government, and maximum governance. So based on these six major areas, the budget was presented by the Union Finance Minister Sitaraman. As you know, in the very beginning, Pradyumna was saying that focus was given on healthcare facilities, and this time there is hike in healthcare expenditure by 137%. So we'll discuss all those things in detail. Before that, let me give you some idea about the whole budget. That means now what I will discuss, actually I will discuss budget at a glance, so that you will able to understand how the government actually prepares budgets and what are the allocations made in different areas. So to understand this one, or to explain this one, I am presenting before you this slide. I hope the slide is visible to all of you. Is it visible to all of you? Is the slide visible to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you. Thank you very much. Now, let's look at the budget. Actually, budget 20 will discuss different aspects. So this is the budget at a glance, and if you look at this particular slide, then there are three important concepts. These concepts are important, that's why I will give you the idea about these concepts. One concept is there, that is called revenue receipts, point number 1. If you look at point number 4, that is called capital receipts. Point number 8, you look at point number 8, it is called total receipts. Then 9, total expenditure. 14 point, that is revenue deficit. 15, effective revenue deficits. Point number 16, fiscal deficit. And 17, the primary deficit. So out of this, actually 3 important concepts are there. Let me explain these 3 concepts, then we'll discuss about the allocation of the fund. One term that there is written, that is revenue deficits. So what is revenue deficit? As you know, revenue deficit is excess of total revenue expenditure of the government over its total revenue receipts. The simple sense re kahiba pai gale, so total revenue receipt minus total revenue expenditure, the difference gives us revenue deficits. And what are the revenue receipts? Revenue receipts of the government consist of 2 components. One, that is tax revenue to the government, and another one is non-tax revenue. And this non-tax revenue includes government dividends, if government will get some grant, etc. Right? So 2 head that is included under revenue receipts. One is tax revenue, another one is non-tax revenue. Similarly, there is revenue expenditure. So the difference between revenue receipts and revenue expenditure is known as revenue deficit. So the question here is, what is revenue expenditure? So if we'll talk about revenue expenditure, actually this includes the expenditure of the government to run the government smoothly, that is the expenditure on wage, salary, etc. That comes under revenue expenditure. And this revenue expenditure actually do not create any assets. So revenue expenditure is carried out for the smooth functioning of the government, you can say. And it is basically spent on, you can say this is the expenditure on wage, salary, etc. So revenue deficit is one concept. Another concept is there that is called fiscal deficit. What is fiscal deficit? Fiscal deficit is the difference between total expenditure and total receipts excluding borrowings. So this one is very important. So what is total government expenditure? Both revenue expenditure as well as capital expenditure. Then minus total receipts. That is, you can say revenue receipts, capital receipts. Then it actually excludes the borrowing. So this difference gives us fiscal deficit. And there is another concept that is called primary deficit. What is primary deficit? Primary deficit is the difference between fiscal deficit and interest payment by the government. Usually government borrow to meet the excess expenditure. On the borrowing amount, government has to pay interest. So from fiscal deficit, if we subtract interest payment, then we will get primary deficit. So this is the meaning of different concepts. Now, given the meaning of this concept, let us look at the budget. What are the different provisions made in this budget? Now, if we look at the size of the government, when we talk about the size of the government, we mean what is the total proposed expenditure by the government. So this is called the size of the budget. Now, this year, the government actually proposed to spend 34,83,236 crore rupees, right? So this is the size of the budget for the year 2021-2022. So the proposed expenditure is 34,83,236 crore rupees. Now, if we will compare this particular proposed expenditure with the previous year, then this is very clear that there is a hike in the proposed budget expenditure. Actually, for the year 2020-2021, the central government had proposed to spend 30,42,230 crore rupees. So that was the proposed budget expenditure. But due to COVID-19 pandemic, the government expenditure actually exceeded the proposed government expenditure for the previous year. And government revised estimate shows that the expenditure for the previous year is 34,50,305 crore rupees. So that is the previous year budget expenditure. Now this year it is 34,83,236 crore. Now if we compare, what is the hike in comparison to the previous year? It is only 33,000 crores roughly. Roughly, this year government has increased budgetary allocation by only 33,000 crores. Though the budget size looks very huge, that is 34,83,236 crores, but actually if you will compare this one with the previous year, then there is only 33,000 crores of excess expenditure proposed for this year. This is about the total expenditure. Now, if we'll segregate the total expenditure, then you can see that there are two major heads under which the government usually spends. One is revenue expenditure and another one is capital expenditure. Now, about the total expenditure, the government is proposing to spend on revenue account, actually on revenue account. It is proposing 29,000 crores of rupees. So this is the total budgetary allocation under revenue account. आर मीनिंग हला मु टिके ओडिया रे कहि दउची 34,83,236 कोटी टंका भितरु 29,29,000 कोटी खर्च हबो को अकाउंट रे ना रेवेन्यू अकाउंट सेही परि भाबरे कैपिटल अकाउंट रे आउ केते खर्च हबो द रेस्ट अमाउंट इज 5,54,236 crore of rupees is proposed to be spent on capital account. And what was the situation in the previous year? Very surprisingly, if you will see, previous year, the revised estimate shows that revenue account expenditure is 30,11,142 crore. But this year, government is proposing how much revenue expenditure? 29,29,000 crore. So the revenue account expenditure this year will be less in comparison to previous year. The reason is in the previous year there was COVID-19. Government had spent more money on the revenue account to manage that one. So this year there is less expenditure to be incurred on revenue account. But one good thing you can observe here, I will say it is a good thing. Why? Because the government has proposed to increase the capital expenditure from 4,39,163 crore to 5,54,236 crores. That means almost there is 1,15,000 crores of rupees proposed to be spent on capital account. So there is hike in the capital account expenditure. It is a good sign. But if you analyze this particular component, then there is no surprise actually. Why? Because government will spend this capital account expenditure to create some healthcare facilities, healthcare assets. So the focus is only on healthcare aspect. That's why there is rise in the capital expenditure. So this is all about the total expenditure. Now, if we look at the total receipts, then there are two components actually. One is your revenue receipt, another one is capital receipt. So far as the revenue receipt is concerned, government proposed to collect revenue of 17,88,424 crores of rupees. Right? So this is the revenue receipts, out of which obviously tax revenue is a major component, and it will be 15,45,000 396 crores. And non-tax revenue that particularly includes government dividend, grant in aid, etc. So that is 2,43,028 crores of rupees. So this is the revenue receipts proposed by the government. Now, if we look at the capital receipts, this is something important actually. You have to look at the capital receipts. Under the capital receipts, there are three important headings. What are they? One, recovery of loans. Two, other receipts. And the third one is borrowings and other liabilities. And here, government proposed to borrow as well as from other liabilities a sum of 15,06,812 crores of rupees. So this is a major chunk of government money which will come from borrowings and other liabilities. So this is the way government will meet the proposed expenditure. Now, if we'll further analyze this one, that this is the proposed expenditure, that is 34 lakhs of proposed expenditure. Now, how the government is meeting this expenditure? If we'll analyze, then the revenue deficit will be 11,40,576 crores of rupees. As I have already defined you, what is revenue deficit? Revenue deficit is the difference between revenue receipts and revenue expenditure, right? So this is almost 5.1%. 5.1% of what? 5.1% of our GDP. So that is the revenue deficit proposed. Now, what's about the effective revenue deficit? Effective revenue deficit means revenue deficit less interest payments. So the effective revenue deficit is 9,21,464 crores of rupees. Now moving to the most important component, that is called fiscal deficit. So fiscal deficit, as I have already defined you, that is total government expenditure less total receipts excluding borrowings. So here fiscal deficit, proposed fiscal deficit amount is 15,06,812 crores of rupees. You can see from this presentation. So this is roughly 6.8% of our GDP. So how the government will meet this fiscal deficit, we will also look at this one. Next one is primary deficit. As I have already also defined you, primary deficit means fiscal deficit less interest payments, and it is 3.1% of our GDP. So this is the financial part of the government. Now let us move to understand this budget in further detail. So let's move to analyze this particular one, that is how the government, or from what source the government will receive its money in segregate manner. So here we are presenting the 1 rupee comes from. That means what are the percentage of different segments from where the government will get its money. So sources of finance, you can say, or from where government will get the money. Now see, if government will get 100 rupees, then 36 rupees will come from borrowings and other liabilities. और आमे जदि कहबा जदि गवर्नमेंट टंकाटे पाइबो 1 रुपी पाइबो ताहले से टंकाटारु 36 पैसा 36 पैसा will come from borrowings and other liabilities. Now government total receipt ru next largest component is income tax. That means out of 100 rupees 14 rupees actually come from income tax. So this is the proposed aspect. But in the previous year, the proposed aspect was 17%. Government was expecting to get 17 rupees from income tax. But this time, government is expecting to get 14 rupees in a pool of 100 rupees. And the next one is, you can say, corporation tax. It is 13 rupees. Out of 100, 13 rupees will come from corporation tax, right? Similarly, 3 rupees will come from custom duties. 8 rupees will come from union excise duties. And what's about the new tax system that was introduced from just before 3 years, that is goods and service tax, that will pay 15% to the government total collection. So 15 rupees will come from goods and service tax if the total collection is 100. So in 100 rupees, 15 rupees will come from goods and service tax. And similarly, non-tax revenue will constitute 6%. And next one is non-debt capital receipt will be 5%. So this is how the government revenue constitutes. So the major component is borrowings and other liabilities. Second major component is goods and service tax. Third one is income tax. Fourth one is corporation tax. Then union excise duties. Then non-tax revenue. Then non-debt capital receipts. And the last one is customs. So together they constitute 100%. So total receipts will be divided this way. Now, if government spends 100 rupees or if government spend 1 rupee, then what will be its segmentation? So how it will spend? Let us look at the government expenditure. This is the government expenditure. Rupees goes to, if 1 rupee will be spent, then how this 1 rupee will be spent? Out of 1 rupee, or you can take this one out of 100 rupees, then 9 rupees will go to centrally sponsored scheme. So central government has a number of sponsored schemes. So under that head, 9 rupees will be spent out of 100 rupees. Similarly, out of 100 rupees, government will spend 13 rupees on central sector scheme. But out of 100 rupees, you see here, this is one important aspect. Out of 100 rupees, government is spending 20 rupees on interest payments. That means the interest paid on the borrowed money. We have borrowed money earlier. That's why we have to pay interest. And government is paying 20% of the total expenditure towards interest payments. Similarly, for the defense services, government will spend 8% of the total expenditure. Or in other words, if government spends 100 rupees, out of 100, 8 rupees will be spent on defense. Similarly, towards subsidies, 9%. And another one is finance commission and other transfers. So it is 10%. As you know, as per the recommendation of the finance commission, central government has to transfer money to the state governments as well as union territories, and it is 10% which will be spent by the government. Next one is state share of taxes and duties, so that will be 16%, and towards pension it will be 5%, and other expenditure is 10%. So this is how 1 rupee will be spent by the government. Or if you will take it 100 rupees, this is the way government distributes its expenditure. Or if you can interpret this one in terms of percentage, then you can also interpret this way. So this is how the government proposed to spend. Now let us move to understand the deficit statistics. So far as the deficit statistics is concerned, as we have already talked about 4 types of deficit. One is fiscal deficit, second one is revenue deficit, third one is effective revenue deficit, fourth one is primary deficit, and this is the figure we have already discussed on this one. Now, what is the government plan? How the government is planning to meet this excess expenditure? Okay, so deficit means government expenditure exceeds its revenue. So how the government will meet this excess expenditure? So that is sources of financing fiscal deficit. So when there is deficit, how the government will meet this deficit? Here is the government plan or government proposed plan to meet the deficit. To meet the deficit, government will borrow from the market. That is called government borrowing. So government borrow 2 ways. One here, government will issue G securities. G security means government will issue government securities, or treasury bills will be issued. So government securities and treasury bills will be issued by the government, through which government is expecting to get 9,67,708 crores of rupees. Now, what is the total fiscal deficit? Total fiscal deficit proposed is 15,06,812 crores of rupees, out of which government will borrow from the market through GSEC and treasury bill a sum of 9,67,708 crores. And another source from where government will incur debt or government will borrow, that is called securities against small savings. So small saving plan is there. So government will also get money from that source, and that will constitute 3,91,927 crores of rupees. And similarly, state provident funds are there, from where government planning to get 20,000 crores of rupees. Other receipts, internal debts and public accounts, from there government will get 54,208 crores of rupees. And external debt, government will borrow from external source. And here there is a major change. A very small amount is proposed here, that is 1,514 crores of rupees will be borrowed from the external source. But if you look at 2020-21 deficit, government proposed to borrow 54,522 crores from external source. That means during that time, we are unable to meet our expenditure from internal borrowing. So government went for external borrowing, right? So that is the way government proposed to meet its fiscal deficit. Now let us move further to understand government receipts. So this is the way government proposed to get its receipts or revenue. Under tax revenue, government will get from corporation tax, tax on income, wealth tax, customs duty, union excise duties, service tax, and from GST. So this is the detailed analysis, but I have shown you different percentage of these receipts through that diagram. So that's why I will not spend more time on this particular table, but you can look at this table carefully, that from which source government is getting how much government is getting from corporation tax, how much government is getting taxes on income, wealth tax, customs duty, union excise duties. So everything is proposed here. Similarly, there is another source from where government gets its revenue, that is called non-tax revenue. What are the non-tax revenue? Interest receipts. Government has also lent to someone else. So similarly, government will get some interest, and that is included on non-tax revenue. Similarly, dividends and profits, external grants, other non-tax revenue, and receipts from or receipts of union territories. So this constitute central government's non-tax revenue. And this is before you, from where the government proposed to get non-tax revenue and what is the amount. Similarly, if you look at the capital receipts, there are, you can say, two heads. One is non-debt receipts, another one is debt receipts. Under non-debt receipts, government proposed to get from recoveries of loans and advances. So government has already paid to others in the form of loan or advance. So government will recover. So that is called non-debt receipts. And another one is, that is major component here, capital receipts. Government will disinvest, and from there government will get something, that is called disinvestment receipts. So this time government has proposed, as Pradyumna said, government has proposed FDI in the insurance sector. Government is also planning to sell some public undertakings, Air India, LIC, IDBI banks. So these public sector undertakings, from this type of things, government will generate money through disinvestment, right? And the last one, government will incur some debt, that is called debt receipts. So together they constitute total capital receipts. So this is source of government receipts. Now let us proceed to analyze the government expenditure. So under the under the revenue expenditure, these are the sources on which government will spend. One is center's expenditure, particularly on establishment expenditure. Establishment expenditure basically incurred to pay the salary and wages to run the government offices. Similarly, next one is central sector schemes and projects. Other is other center sector expenditure. So these are the detailed expenditure proposed by the government. And another one is transfer payments. So you know, government makes transfer payments in the form of pension. Similarly, government also makes transfer payments to the state governments as per the recommendation of Finance Commission. So this is how the government actually spends on different heads. Next one, if people will look at this is called capital expenditure of the government. So far as capital expenditure of the government is concerned, the major sources are here. one is gross budgetary support, and second one is the Ministry of Railway. Third one is IEBR, excluding Ministry of Railways expenditure. So these are the areas where government expenditure is proposed. Now, this is something important, that is major items on which government will spend, that is expenditure of major items. So you can look at this, you know what is the size of the budget. Now before you, this is the major items of expenditure, department wise, you can say. One, how much is government proposing to spend on pension, defense, subsidy. Then next one, the proposed expenditure on agriculture and allied activities, commerce and industry, development of Northeast region, education, energy, external affairs ministry, finance ministry, home affairs, interest payment, IT and telecom expenditure, others. So this basically shows actually the expenditure of different departments. And this is a major item wise. And total expenditure, as you know, the budget size is 34,83,236 crore. So this is the way the money will be spent across different departments. Now let us move to understand which sector actually gets how much. You look at this particular color diagram. From this color diagram, you can easily see that the blue color area is the largest one, and that area is occupied by which component? That area is occupied by interest. So interest component of expenditure is more. And second one, if we look at, the area is subsidy. So subsidy is the next one. And third one, if we look at, this is defense, right? Fourth one is transfer to states. Then there is transport. So you look at this figure and you can guess in the total defined area, which area is occupying largest place and smallest place. And accordingly, you will be able to understand how the government spends money on different areas. So this is the composition of government expenditure. Now, this is the proposed transfer of government payments to different state governments and union territories. Because the figure is so clumsy, I will skip this one. Pradyumna, how many time is there?
Sir, you can take another 10 minutes, sir. Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. So now, given this overall picture, I am going to give you one idea about the budget in an overall manner. So while fiscal deficit target is based at 6.8% of GDP for the fiscal year 2022, it is estimated to jump to 9.5%, as you know, for the fiscal year 2021. We can say nearly thrice the government's target of 3.5% set before the pandemic struck. So the budget has also proposed to bring down the fiscal deficit to 4.5% of the GDP by fiscal year 2025-26. So this is the proposed fiscal deficit of the government. So increasing the buoyancy of tax revenue and increase receipts from the monetization of assets, including public sector undertakings and land, would be the key to meeting the fiscal deficit projection. So this is what is the government proposal. Now, despite the limited fiscal headroom, the government proposed doubling healthcare spending and various infrastructure projects to boost spending and spur growth. Schemes for improving the healthcare infrastructure, including the launch of a centrally sponsored scheme, as you know, PM Atmanirbhar Swasth Bharat Yojana, were announced by the Ministry of Finance. Besides, a dedicated sum of rupees 35,000 crores has been allocated for the COVID-19 vaccine for the year 2021 and 22. So 35,000 crores of rupees of provision is there for vaccine, so that people will stay healthy and they can fight against this COVID-19. Now, other significant announcements includes 1,000 more mandis to be linked to e-national agriculture markets, that is called e-NAM, E-NAM, that is e-national agriculture markets. Then privatization of 2 public sector undertakings and 1 general insurance company in the fiscal year 2022 will be done. Then setting up 7 textile parks over 3 years under the scheme of mega investment textile parks, increase in FDI limit in the insurance to 74%, and the launch of voluntary vehicle scrapping policy to retired, unfit, damaged, outdated vehicle via a vehicle fitness test were among the key announcements, right? So in an endeavor to promote digitalization, government has also announced the faceless scheme at the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal Authority. So taking cues from the abolishment of the dividend distribution tax from the last budget, government has taken certain measures such as withholding tax in case of foreign portfolio investor to be made at a tax treaty rate, dividend income of REIT and INVIT being exempt from TDS, tax deducted at source. Similarly, if you look at the indirect tax front, on the indirect tax front, changes in customs related procedures, customs tax related procedures have been announced, which include a definite timeline of 2 years of completion of proceedings under the customs. Similarly, further custom duty rates have been increased on certain goods with the aim to promote domestic manufacturing. A new cess that is called Agriculture Infrastructure and Development cess has been introduced on import of specified goods. The cess shall be used to finance the improvement of agriculture infrastructure. So far as the GST is concerned, few proposals were also announced with a major change being the audited reconciliation in GST filing, right? So this is how the current budget actually proposed. Further, one important aspect, there is proposed amendment for FRBM Act, that is Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. Why? Because government fiscal deficit is going to increase this year, and that requires actually amendment of the FRBM Act, and the government has also proposed to do so. So overall, if we look at the budget that is proposed by the government is in the expected line, and they have focused on healthcare facilities. Even there is provision for the unorganized sectors, particularly the labor class, those who are working in the unorganized sectors. There is some schemes. But from this budget, if you say the middle class people, they are little bit offset with this one, because for them, for the middle class people, there is no such big announcement. So that's why it is actually surprised the middle class people, because they were expecting some rebate on the income tax, but that is not done this time. But however, if we'll rate this budget in a 5-point scale, then I will give 3.5 to this budget. Hope I have met to your expectation, and I try to actually explain from a academic angle rather critical. So thank you very much. Thank you to the principal of the Pattamundai College. Thank you Pradyumna and Subhasis. Thank you all the students for being with us. So it was a very happy and nice interaction with you people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, some students are there who wants to ask some question regarding this concept, sir.
Yes.
We allow them.
Sure.
Okay. Any student who wants to ask any question to our resource person, they can ask. Any students? You can ask the question by unmuting your mobile.
Hello. Sir, my question is our total expenditure, our large chunk of total expenditure goes for interest payment. So my question is it good for India who will taking into account the growth rate of India?
Okay, you have raised a pertinent question actually. That's why if you look at the government budget, government actually hesitated to have more fiscal deficit. So if this year you will have more fiscal deficit, then next year you will have more burden in the form of high interest payment, right? So that's why keeping the fiscal deficit within the specified limit is good for any economy. But if we look at our expenditure, in the previous years, we have spent more through borrowing, and that is the reason we have to spend or we have to pay in the form of rate of interest, right? So whether it is good or bad, because you have borrowed money earlier, you have created or you have got the fruits of that borrowed money. Now you have to pay back it. So that is what is happening actually. Now, whether it is good for India or bad for India, you see, when you are borrowing money, the question will be raised here, not when you will pay the rate of interest. So today, if you are borrowing money, you will pay the rate of interest tomorrow. So you have to ask the question whether borrowing today is good for India or not. If it is good for India, borrowing is good for India, then there is no question about whether you are paying more interest or less interest, right?
Okay, I think Satyavan, it is clear. Anyone who wants to ask question now ask question. We have limited time.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, sir. My question is why India government always adopt to deficit budget?
Because our aspiration is so high. There is actually ideological difference also when you look at the deficit budget. Why the government adopts a deficit budget? Sometimes some government will set target 3.5%. Some government will see that fiscal deficit is not a problem for us. Why? Because if we'll borrow money and that borrowed money will spend, which will directly or indirectly will pay us more, then what is the problem of spending more? You take one example. When you are planning to have your own house, you can go for one housing loan. So this housing loan means you are borrowing. So whether borrowing in that context is good or bad. So you have to ask, you know that if you will borrow the money and you will have the house, that house will be more valuable for you in future. That's why you are borrowing. Similarly, the government also considers different aspect, but there is another aspect actually. Sometimes government becomes populist. Populist means, suppose this is a year of election and government, the party wants to be re-elected. So they will go for excess expenditure to please people so that they will be re-elected. So during that time, they may go for excess expenditure, which is not acceptable. But during other periods, you take the example of this year or the previous year. So there was actually absolute necessary from the government side to spend more. Otherwise, the whole economy would have sunk to a very lower level. So sometimes to manage the economy, government has to spend more. And you have studied Keynesian theory, that is called pump priming policy measure. When there is low demand, we have to boost the demand by government expenditure. So during that period, government spend. And what is the policy prescription of Keynes? Dig the hole, fill up it, and pay for that. And that is the way you can manage the economy. So sometimes when there is slowdown, when the economy is not performing well, government has to spend. Then the government will, the economy will revive and the economy can perform well. But during that time, from where the government will get the money? Government has to borrow. And that is the reason government go for deficit finance. But the decision is not always judicious. As I told you that during the election year, government will unnecessarily announce some policy measure which will help them to re-elect, but that will not help the economy at all. You take the last year, 2019, so many announcement, Kalia Yojana, Prime Minister scheme for the farmers, they directly paid the money, and now after 1 year, some farmers also return the money. Okay, after getting re-election. So you know, such type of policy measures are also there that should not be acceptable, but we know parties are opportunistic. So they spend on certain sector so that their image will be good and they will be re-elected. So there are some compulsion and there are some other aspects which is not judicious, but for political gain, they go for that. And these are some reasons for which we have always fiscal deficit budget.
Sir, my next question is why there is little importance on industry in this current budget?
No. There is more weightage has been given to the industries actually. People stand nowhere. So many things has been given to the industrialist, corporate house. So the budget is meant for the corporate house, not for the common people. If you see, you analyze this one, then you will able to get it.
Okay, okay, okay. Sangeeta, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Anyone? We have limited time.
Hello,
Yes, yes.
sir. Sir, my question is, government has spent huge amount of budget for agriculture sector year by year, but why today generation youth are not interested to service in this sector?
Again, please repeat your question. I could not get it.
Sir, government has spent huge amount of budget for agriculture sector, but why today generation youth are not interested to service in this sector?
Okay, let me ask this question to you. What is your ambition? What do you want to do in your future? If I will ask this question to you, what's your future plan, Tapaswani?
Sir,
Yes, yes. What's your future plan? Hello. Okay, she has raised the question. Actually, so actually the answer lies with you people. Yes, actually our people, they are thinking that in agricultural activities there is no social status. One point. There is also no respect. And another part is, you know, the agriculture sector involves lots of risk because it is a sector that is mostly affected by the natural calamities. So many factors are there for which the current generation is not interested in this sector. If you will ask what you want to be, everyone wants to wear boot, tie, everything, but without going to the field. The reason is our education system, basically our education and our understanding is so weak, and we are also not giving due respect to this particular sector, and that is why youths are not interested. You take the example of farmers' protest. They are protesting from last few months, but the government is not heeding them. Don't you think that this will be a discouraging factor? Don't you think that farmers will be frustrated? And that is the reason nobody is coming forward to be a agriculturist. No one want to be a farmer. That is the reason. So we have a step-motherly attitude towards this sector, and that is the reason people are hesitant to be a farmer. They don't want to work in the agriculture. This is what I can say.
ପିଲାମାନେ ଯେ ଓଡ଼ିଆରେ ପଚାରିବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁଛ ପଚାରି ପାରିବ, କିନ୍ତୁ ଟାଇମ ଲିମିଟେଡ, ଜଲ୍ଦି ଜଲ୍ଦି ଟିକେ ପଚାର. Those who are not comfortable in English, they can ask the question in Odia. I think, sir, we are running over the time, sir.
Yeah.
Now, I request Jitendra sir to propose vote of thanks.
Thank you, Professor Pradhan. Good afternoon, everyone. Honorable Principal Professor Adhikari Lakshman Das sir, esteemed resource person Dr. Manoj Kumar Das sir, and respected faculty members of Pattamundai College and participants from different parts of Odisha, and my dear loving students. It is an honor for me to express my gratitude to everyone present here. On behalf of Department of Economics and Department of Commerce, I extend a very heartiest thanks to our esteemed resource person, Dr. Manoj Kumar Das sir, the Assistant Professor of Economics Ravenshaw University, Cuttack, for enlightening us with his knowledgeable deliberation. Within the short time period, he has analyzed different aspects of Union Budget 2021 in a very simple and effective way. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for joining with us. Now, I would also like to thank our honorable principal, Professor Adhikari Lakshminarayan Das sir, for providing all kinds of supports, guidance, and encouragement. I am also very grateful to our faculty member of different departments of their active participation and supports. Last but not the least, this seminar would not have been successful without participants. So thanks to all the participants, including faculty members of different colleges and universities and students of Pattamundai College and other institutions as well, for being present here and for your active participation and cooperation. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Thank you.
Now I request all the students to start video or to take a photo. ପିଲାମାନେ ସମସ୍ତେ ତମ ଭିଡିଓ ଟିକେ ଅନ୍ କରିଦିଅନ୍ତୁ, ଆମେ ଟିକେ ଗୋଟେ ଫଟୋ ନବା ଟିକେ ଖାଲି। ଓକେ। Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sir, with due permission of our principal, I conclude this seminar here. Thank you.
Thank you.
काली टाटा दे जल्दी वो देखिए साइड कर ही दे दो